Hello, everyone. In the previous episode, we talked about how Paro increased the workload on the Jewish people. And Moshe asked Hashem, why are you doing this to them? In this week's Torah portion, Hashem answers Moshe and tells him, I promised the forefathers, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov, that I will bring the Jews to the land of Israel. Hashem asked Moshe to go to Paro again. Moshe said, Master of the universe, how can I go to him? I stutter. Hashem replied to him, you grew up in Paro's house, and he knows you. As for Aaron, the Jewish nation know him because he was with them for 60 years when you were not. Go together, and Aaron will be your spokesperson. At that time, Moshe was 80 years old, and Aaron was 83. Hashem told them that if Paro asks for a sign to know that they were sent by Hashem, take a staff. Aaron will throw it on the ground, and it will turn into a snake. Moshe and Aaron went to the palace and entered without permission. Wild and predatory animals awaited them, but instead of attacking, they sat quietly. Kings that were in the palace at the time took off their crowns when they saw Moshe and Aaron. Paro asked, what do you want? Who sent you? Hashem sent us. Show me a miracle, said Paro. Aaron threw the staff on the ground, and it immediately turned into a snake. Paro was not alarmed and asked his wife to throw a stick on the ground, and it also turned into a snake. Children who were in the palace did the same. It's important to note that they used magic to turn the sticks into snakes. Everyone laughed at Aaron, but at that moment, the snakes turned back into sticks, and Aaron's staff swallowed them all. Paro the wicked said, I don't believe in your miracles, and therefore I'm not willing to release the Jewish people. Hashem said, now is the time to begin the 10 plagues. Paro would start his day by going to the river, and every time he reached the river, the waters would rise to greet him, just as Yaakov had blessed him. Moshe was commanded to warn Paro about the plague, and so it was. Morning came. Moshe and Aaron went out to meet Paro. Aaron hit the riverbank. Immediately, the water turned into blood in an instant. Not the color of blood, but actual blood. Wow, what a smell there was! All the fish died. The Egyptians had no water to drink. There was only regular water in Paro's palace because he paid a lot of money to the Jews. The plague lasted 7 days. Every Egyptian who wanted to drink had to go and buy water from the Jews. Only then could they drink clear water. Despite the hardship, Paro did not relent. Hashem decided to move on to the plague of frogs. Aaron stood by the river, and suddenly a big frog emerged from it. The Egyptians tried to kill it, but every time they struck it, more frogs came out of it. Wow, what's happening here? The Egyptians didn't understand. The frogs were attacking, stinging, and biting. They even went into their stomachs and croaked loudly. There was such a loud noise in Egypt. Paro received the biggest frogs. On the 6th day, Paro called Moshe and Aaron and said, Moshe, please pray for the plague to stop immediately, and I will let you go to offer sacrifices to God. Moshe went out of Egypt and prayed to Hashem, and in an instant, all the frogs in Egypt died. What a smell there was! When Paro saw this, he decided, I will not let you go. Immediately, Hashem moved on to the 3rd plague, the plague of lice. Aaron struck the ground of Egypt with his staff, and from it lice began to emerge. Not the gentle lice we know, but biting and stinging lice, both big and small. But the magicians who tried to perform magic and create lice ran to Paro and said to him, Paro, this isn't magic, it's real. Let the Jews go. Paro the wicked did not agree. Hashem moved on to the next plague, the plague of wild animals. In an instant, Hashem brought all the beasts of the forest into the streets of Egypt. Bears, lions, tigers, elephants. Who didn't show up there? The animals began to devour the Egyptians who were outside. Paro began shouting, Moshe and Aaron, come quickly. But he was afraid to go outside. Everyone who heard him shouting echoed after him, Moshe and Aaron, come quickly. When Moshe and Aaron arrived, he said to them, go offer sacrifices to your God. Moshe left the city to pray, and in an instant, the animals were gone. But wicked Paro refused to release the Jewish people. At this stage, Hashem decided to move on to the 5th plague, the plague of pestilence. Moshe warned Paro that anyone who doesn't bring their livestock indoors will have them die in an instant. Why did Moshe announce this? Because Hashem is merciful, he has compassion for humanity. And so it was. In an instant, all the livestock and animals of the Egyptians that were outside the house died. Wow, what's happening here? Paro sent messengers to the land of Goshen where the Jews lived. to check if the livestock had died there as well. The messengers returned and said, "There is one Jew whose livestock also died, but he wasn't a Jew. Rather, he was married to a Jewish woman named Shlomit bat Divri. He was Egyptian and she was Jewish." Terrible. Paro decided not to release them, and from here we move on to the sixth plague, the plague of boils. Hashem commanded Moshe to take fine white ash called soot and throw it into the sky, and so he did. The ash spread throughout the land of Egypt and caused boils among the Egyptians. Boils, these are very unpleasant sores with a lot of pus, and they are painful and itchy. They scratched each other's sores. Paro almost gave in, but Hashem hardened his heart to repay him for all his wickedness and moved on to the seventh plague, the plague of hail, huge hailstones combined with fire. It fell all over Egypt, and everywhere the hail fell, a great fire ignited. Even though fire and water don't usually get along, in this plague, they made peace with each other. And Paro was terrified and decided to release the Jewish people. He called Moshe and Aaron and begged them to pray for the end of the plague, and so it was. Did Paro release the Jewish people? And what happened next? We'll tell you in the next episode.